Station, this is Houston Vapor. Thanks for your patience. Are you ready for the event?
Houston Station, I'm ready for the event.
Denver 7, KMGH. This is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Ryan Fish with Denver 7 KMGH. How do you hear me?
I've got you loud and clear. Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
It is so good to speak with you, Major Ayers. What is it like up there inside the ISS? How would you describe it?
Oh, man, you know, I don't think the English language has the right words to describe what an amazing opportunity and what an amazing experience this is. You know, I think that it never gets old. I like to do this trick, but, you know, it never gets old to be able to, like, hang out on the wall or, you know, go into a module and talk to somebody who's on the ceiling or, you know, just let go of my mic and I can still talk to you. So there are just so many unique things about the space station, you know, that your body has to adapt to and you have to get used to. But also, we do a ton of amazing science up here, and getting to live and work aboard the International Space Station and seeing all of the different international partners work towards one common goal, and then knowing that the science that we get to do up here, even though we have a very small part of a massive research project, we get to make a difference for the world and help Earth advance humankind.
Well, tell us more about the mission that you're working on up there right now. How long are you staying up there aboard the ISS, and what have you been doing with the newest members aboard the ISS?
So our mission will be about 5 months, I think, by the time that we get home. We're scheduled to come home this summer, so 5 to 6 months is 6 months is the average ISS long duration mission at this point. So we launched in March, going home in August is the game plan, and then. You know, the biggest thing for us, the science, we do about 60 to 70% science up here. And at any given point, there are over 200 science experiments going on, both on the inside and outside of station, looking down at Earth, looking out at space. So we have a lot of different things that we work on each day. And then actually with Axiom 4 here, it's been a really cool change of pace. You know, we went from 4 crew members on the U.S. Orbital segment to 8 crew members. And it's been really awesome to see these private astronauts who are really, they've selected by their countries and are here for their countries and doing their own science and research, and watching them adapt and just really just hit the ground running, or floating, I should say, and doing some amazing science up here, getting used to the floating part. You know, they only have a couple weeks, so they have to adapt quickly, and they're just crushing it, doing a great job up here. It's really fun to watch them. You know, it's fun to watch them and help them take pictures of the Earth and get to see the Earth from our point of view, you know, and help take that back to each of their countries. You know, we've got people from all over the world that are up here right now. Currently 6 different countries represented on the International Space Station. So it's been a blast. And then, you know, Axiom is just an amazing example of commercializing low Earth orbit. You know, NASA's goal is to eventually get to the point where NASA can buy services from commercial companies that are cheaper than what we pay for right now, and then that allows us to focus on the Artemis program and getting onto the moon and Mars. So a lot going on up here, and really excited about the future of space exploration.
Well, what inspired you to become an astronaut to get to this point? What was that catalyst for you?
Oh, man, you know, I had an affinity for space and for the sky since I was, like, you know, knee-high, really little. I loved the sky and space. And, you know, I used to drag my family out, you know, out east of Colorado Springs to get away from the city lights to watch meteor showers. And so I was always fascinated by it. And then growing up right there in Colorado, you know, I got to see the Thunderbirds fly over every year. So I kind of knew that the Air Force Academy existed and that there was a military potential path. And, you know, growing up in the shuttle era, as soon as I found out that you could fly the shuttle, I was like, that's what I want to do. So I was a very serious little kid. I set my goals really high and wanted to become a pilot and then eventually an astronaut. And, you know, kind of put my nose to the grinder, worked really hard, and never got bumped off that path, and was able to get here today.
And you answered it a little bit there, but growing up in Colorado, how did that community, this community here, help you get to the ISS?
Yeah, you know, I think there's so many opportunities in Colorado. You know, I grew up right there in Colorado Springs, went to high school in Woodland Park, and so I had some amazing experiences in school. I had some great teachers that encouraged me when I said I was interested in math and science, and and I think I had some amazing coaches as well. So I think that being part of a team and learning how to take care of other people was a huge part of what got me here today. But also just the exploratory side. We're right there in the mountains. We grew up camping and hiking and stuff, and so the desire to go explore and see something that I haven't seen and figure out what's out in the world or universe was fostered right there in Colorado.
Oh, well, and talk about the training from that moment of inspiration and growing up and going to school. What has the training been like since then to get to this point, to get on this mission? How would you describe both, how long it's been and what all you've gone through to get to this point in the training?
Oh man, I tend to say I've only ever been in training my whole life. I feel like every time I get to a new spot or a new qualification, there's something else that I need to learn. And so, from the Air Force Academy, I went to grad school, and then I went into pilot training. And then throughout my career as a pilot, I flew T-38s and then F-22s, and you're constantly working your way up in qualifications in the airplane, and eventually got to the point where I was instructing new people in the airplane, and then got to NASA and did 2 years of initial training, just astronaut training. So where we learn, how to do spacewalks in the neutral buoyancy lab in the big pool there. We learn Russian language. We learn how to fly the NASA T-38s. We learn all about the space station systems and then the robotic arms. So there's a bunch of different facets of the training, the initial training. And then I immediately went into the specific mission training. So that was about another year and a half of training. And it's just more specific stuff for our mission and the science that we're doing, and then more details and more in-depth on the space station and how to maintain it and how to do all the science up here. So, I like to say my entire career has just been a bunch of learning and a bunch of training.
And that learning and that work and science still continues. I know your day to day has a lot of that, but for all of us down here, what is a typical day like up there?
I'd say a typical day is actually not unlike what it is on Earth. We work from about 7:30 in the morning to 7:30 in the evening, and we have a schedule. The ground team, we have a flight control team on the ground and mission control that put a ton of work into figuring out exactly how to schedule everything so that we're not in the same module or right next to each other, bumping into each other. And then we have, Marshall Space Flight Center, and they're in charge of all the science payloads. And so they help with all of the different science procedures that we run. We in that 12 hours, we do 6 to 8 hours of work, whether that be science or maintenance. We have to be the plumbers and electricians up here as well, so we do a lot of maintenance on board. And then we work out for about 2.5 hours a day is what's scheduled, and so that's cardio and weightlifting, or resistance training, because we don't technically have weight in microgravity. But that's to keep our bones and our muscles healthy and prevent the atrophy that happens in microgravity. So, so it's fairly busy up here, but it's, we get a little bit of free time. We get time for meals, and we get weekends, and so it's not unlike working at home. It's just you can do things like this.
Well, and to that end, eating and drinking and everyday things on Earth, what was some of that adjustment like for you in terms of now living in microgravity, things like that, or other everyday things that you have had to adjust to in that environment?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like your body really adapts quickly. It's amazing how quickly the body adapts. Your brain adapts. You can drink just like normal. You just have to be careful because drinks can fly all over the place. I've got a drink bag here, so if you let go of things, they might float away, or if you forget to cap it, you might have some flyaway liquid. But it's pretty amazing and fascinating how quickly you get used to it. You get the fluid shift. So without gravity, a lot of the fluid shifts up in your body and up into the brain area. And so, you kind of feel a little bit congested sometimes, and maybe your taste buds get a little dulled because your sense of smell gets a little dulled. But overall, you kind of feel normal, minus the fact that you're floating, like I said.
Well, and you've done so much training for this and preparing for being in that environment. But is there anything other than what you've said already that surprised you, in terms of that adjustment, the work, or the environment? And how does it compare to what you were training for and preparing for?
Oh man, I think our ground teams and our instructors on the ground do such an amazing job. We have a mock-up facility there at Johnson Space Center, and aside from actually having things on the deck here, like there's a freezer right in front of me that it's the minus 80 degree freezer that keeps our blood and other samples frozen until it's time to come home. And aside from actually having things on the floor, the mock-up facility is pretty much the same, and so we get some really great training. So the adjustment to the procedures and running all the science and stuff was actually pretty quick. It takes a little while for your brain to accept the fact that you're floating. But I think that one of the biggest things for me was looking out the window. The getting to see the Earth from this perspective, I still am not used to that. I'm still amazed by every sunrise and every sunset that I get to see. This morning, the Northern Lights were out right over the northern U.S. We flew right over you guys. Actually, I was taking pictures of Denver this morning. Well, my morning, your midnight. But and it was a beautiful, crisp, clear morning in Denver this morning. And then right after that, I got to see the aurora come out and got to see the beautiful, greens and purples even of the Northern Lights. So I don't know that I'll ever get used to the view. And I try to take as many pictures as I possibly can so that we can share it with you all and then share it with the scientists, because there's always data to be collected as we look back on the Earth.
And what is your message, first to the community here in Colorado who looks up to you, knows you, or is inspired by you, and then also just folks in general who want to do what you're doing and become an astronaut one day? What would be your message?
I love this question. I think that never stop dreaming, right? And be excited and be aggressive with your dreams and set those goals. Like I said, I was a serious little kid who set really high goals. You're always going to have someone who maybe laughs at it or jokes around about it, but you will always get to where you need to be. And the biggest piece of advice that I can give people is work really hard. So that's what I did. Like I said, find something you're really passionate about, get really good at that thing, work really hard at it, and be a good team player. Take care of the people next to you, and you'll get to anywhere you want to go in life. So work hard and be a good team player. That's what I love to preach.
Well, Major Ayers, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. This is truly a really special opportunity. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. To my hometown, home state, I should say. I loved, like I said, loved growing up in Colorado, loved exploring. And really excited to represent Colorado up here on the International Space Station and represent the U.S. And we're doing some really exciting things in human spaceflight, and I'm excited to share it with you. So thanks again.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all participants. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.